I am Kelly Reider, and I'm going to share with you some ideas about developing academic language with your students in your classrooms. So what is academic language? Academic language is the language of the classroom. Now, you may have students coming to you speaking English, and you might think, they don't really need to go with that English language development teacher, or I don't really need that English language development teacher to come into the classroom because the student is speaking English. But there's a difference between conversational English and the academic language, the language of the classroom. The language of the classroom is not a native language for anyone. Everyone is learning this, even our native English speakers. They are learning the language of the classroom, the language of school, the language of science, the language of math, the language of social studies. Academic language is the language of school. Academic language is the language of the workplace in most cases, regardless of the job path or the career. Each workplace has its own language, its own way of communicating, specialized vocabulary, acronyms that are used, ways that we explain and word things. That's academic language. It's the language of textbooks, of instructional videos, of how-to materials. All of this is academic language. The language of assessments, the one we don't love, the language of tests, right? How often can your students tell you what they know in the classroom, and then it comes to the assessment and the language shifts and they no longer understand? They still understand. It's just how we're going about communicating. Being proficient in academic language is the key to success, right? Our students need to be able to speak intelligently about a wide range of topics. They need to have confidence in their academic language. They need to know how to use language in a way that represents them well, that shows respect, that shows that I'm someone you should listen to. All of this leads into their success. So in the classroom, we're going to talk about academic language, right? It's this big idea of academic language, which leads to our ability to make meaning about the math in the classroom, the science in the classroom. We can make meaning about the discussion of character and setting, and that leads to the communication skills, the literacy skills that take us to our academic achievement. So developing this academic language requires a little bit of enculturation, right? So we're not saying assimilation, we're not saying become an English speaker at the expense of all other languages. We're saying enculturation is adopting the patterns of behavior in the culture where I live. So I need to know, I don't need to replace my culture and my language, but I need to know how to navigate the worlds that I live in, and that it does shift from one to the other. So I'm learning how language and culture go together. Developing academic language requires some support, right? It's not a native language. No one speaks algebra as a native language. No one speaks chemistry as a native language, right? It requires some support and instruction, even for our native English speakers. Our students develop their social English pretty independently, pretty quickly, because they want to communicate. They want to make meaning. They want to share meaning. The academic language takes more of that support and instruction to get to the same level of communication. Our students need to know that code shifting. When do we use informal language, social language? When do we use formal academic language? We have to be aware of that as the teacher, and then we help our students become aware of, okay, this might be how you explain that to your friend at lunch, but when you're writing it for your English teacher, we need to switch to academic language. And we have to teach that switch and point it out when we expect it so that students can hit that target.